Listening to the Voices of Victory podcast show.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mario Di Leone.
Hello, my name is Mario Di Leone. Welcome to the Voices of Victory podcast show. I am your host, and we're going to talk about leadership and attention span. And this is where it's going to go down. I'm going to drop a big fat truth bomb on everybody today. The very first thing I want to unpack, it's not that people have suddenly become stupid or lazy. No, we want to get rid of those ideas. We want to understand two key ideas. We want to understand that people's attention spans are being trained to shatter into pieces, and our attention spans are being trained into fragmentation. So every notification, every swipe, every post, it's like somebody tapping you on the shoulder and the constant interruption of your baseline of focus. So your baseline of focus, you can imagine your focus is straight as this pen here. It's completely straight. It's a straight line. It becomes fragmented or broken every time something keeps interrupting. So it's no longer a straight line. It becomes fragmented. What happens is focus stops feeling normal, and jumping between things suddenly feels normal. And over time, it's not that people are losing their attention, they're losing the habit of holding it. It could even go to the point of rage. If we look at some of the other YouTubers out there, and we see their comments, there's these raging comments about how there's no chapters in a video because they can't sit all the way through YouTube. Now, granted, there are people that have topics that are hard to endure. It's hard to endure some of these topics and sit all the way through it. But I mean, YouTube does have a feature where you can fast forward. Right? You can kind of fast forward. You can skip around, and some people don't want to do that. They get angry at that level of work. And I think we have to come into contact with not only our patience, but also our understanding, because that's part of being a leader. So we lose the habit of holding our attention. The ability to hold attention is part of leadership. Being able to stand there and actually focus in on what people are saying. So the people who can still do that will quietly move ahead. Not because they're smarter. It's not because they're more intelligent. It's not because they're emotionally intelligent. It's because they are focusing in. Because they can stay in the room naturally and mentally while everyone else is maybe checking out. And this comes with the argument of, well, maybe the leader's boring, or maybe he's not engaging, or maybe he's not a good public figure. They'll throw everything and the kitchen sink at it to make up for their own insecurities and lack of attention. That's normal, and it's happening. It's happening quite a bit. So there are people that are not engaging, right? But there's people that are. But here's the thing. Sometimes it's not always the messenger, but it's the actual message. And the quality of that message can really outweigh all of the glamour and glitz that we see on it, because it's out there, right? So here are some points today that I'm going to bring. I'm going to bring across 8 points that are going to be about leadership and attention span. The very first key point is that the average worker in 2026 is constantly interrupted. All right. And this is research coming right out of Irvine, California. Office workers are interrupted roughly around every 11 minutes. So after the interruption, it takes about 23 minutes to return back to your original task. So this means most people spend their day actually recovering from distraction instead of actually doing things that are meaningful or meaningful work. Now, at the end of your day, when work is over, what do people do? They go home and they distract themselves more. It becomes more of a distraction. And here's the thing, if you're going to lead, you have to consider that you may not be leading a business, you may not be leading a group of people, but you may be leading your own life and you may be leading your own relationship. So that leadership will just blend right into personal life as well. The phone check habit has become pretty extreme. That's the second point, is that a large study by Deloitte found that Americans check their phone roughly about 140 times a day on average. 140. That's not communication at all. That's not where we're going. That's attention fragmentation as an actual lifestyle. Now, another thing what we're seeing is, and I used to work in the film industry, so I know firsthand, is that we're seeing short form content starting to move towards 1 minute. So for example, there's a company, a film company out in not only California, but also in China, where short form content is actually taking over and it's rewiring our expectations. So imagine traditionally you would watch, let's say, a soap opera or a movie or a full-length feature, and you have to sit there and hold your attention with the whole entire thing. And what tends to happen is the short form content that's coming out is just 1 minute. So imagine taking a movie and breaking it up into 1 minute increments. And then you're going to have to go through the story. Now, the hard part with that is storytelling has changed as a result. So now we have to have a dopamine hit every 1 minute. Like, this is where it's going. Every 1 minute, it's getting to be pretty intense because we have to be able to bring that attention span back. Dopamine hits keep people going, right? So our brain is adapting to that speed, and the slower activities actually feel frustrating. So reading, planning, problem solving, journaling, sitting there and listening, it's not an inability. It's not that you're not able, you are conditioned. It's becoming a conditioning. Now let's go over to point number 4, is that multitasking is mostly a myth. I've worked in technology for close to 25 years. And everybody says, oh, you got to learn to multitask, you got to multitask, you got to multitask. And quite honestly, you're splitting your attention span. And some people can do it, and a lot of people can't. Now, Stanford University showed that heavy multitaskers are actually worse at filtering information and focusing. So the brain is not multitasking. It's rapidly switching tasks, and that burns a lot of mental energy. Attention is now the new economic commodity. That's why I said attention span is the next currency, the next commodity. The platforms get money because of your engagement, and the modern platforms operate inside what economists actually call the attention economy. So the longer someone stays on the platform, the more advertising revenue is actually generated. This is how it goes, which means billions of dollars are actually spent engineering systems designed to keep people hooked. That slot machine effect that occurs. So your attention is not just melting away, it's being competed for very aggressively across all channels. Now, when we look at deep thinking and metacognitive thinking, deep thinking has become rare. Metacognitive thinking has become extremely hard for people. Metacognitive thinking is like the thought about the thought. That's not to be confused with a chain reaction of overthinking. Not at all. If you're making a decision between two cars, the metacognitive question is, is this the type of decision I need to make right? That is a metacognitive question. It's the question about the question. Now, when it comes down to it, writing, invention, solving hard problems, they all demand a long stretch of concentration. So when attention is constantly broken, people default to reacting, getting angry, even rage, skimming, and even surface level thinking. So the result is just more confusion and less insights that people are having. So deep thinking is becoming rare. So the complex decisions actually require uninterrupted thought. Very important. So when it comes to being a leader, you have to be able to develop that. Now, stress increases when attention is fragmented. This is point number 7. The studies actually show that the constant digital interruptions, they increase cognitive fatigue and stress level. So when people are falling into those rage moments, those rage comments on YouTube as to why you don't have chapters, it's because that stress actually increases. It's not that these are angry people, although some people are, but the stress increases when the attention becomes fragmented, and the brain never fully finishes. It never closes that loop of attention. So it carries around a pile of half-closed loops, and people feel busy and they want to know more, and they feel strangely unproductive as well. Like, why am I not getting further ahead? Why am I not breaking ground? It's the appearance of being busy, but not actually moving the needle forward. And this happens to a lot of folks with attention span. The last key point is number 8, is focus is actually becoming a competitive challenge. So because distraction is everywhere, the ability to sustain attention is actually becoming more and more rare. And this rarity actually does create leverage. Got news for you. So someone who can concentrate for 2 uninterrupted hours can outperform someone else who working 6 distracted hours. So why does this all matter for leadership in 2026? It definitely does. It totally matters. As leadership is not built on speed. It's built on decision. It's built on clarity. It's built on focus. It's built on discernment. It's built on judgment. Leaders need an attention span because leadership requires listening to complex problems, understanding them, comprehending them, thinking through second order of consequences, that there's a primary consequence, a second and a third, and so forth, being able to think through all those consequences that are present, seeing the patterns that other people actually miss, making decisions that actually affect many people. So none of that happens in a 20-second burst. None of that happens in a 5-second burst. So when attention disappears, leadership becomes reactive. When attention is strong and clear and has clarity and focus, not only does communication become strategic, but leadership becomes strategic. So the real point is that the modern world is not suffering from a lack of intelligence. It is suffering from a shortage of sustained attention span. And it's the people who can rebuild that skill constantly that gain that enormous edge in life, in their relationships, and in business, and in the leadership circles. And at the end of the day, we live in an inside-out world where the inner world has a direct connection to the outer world. It's that interpersonal pivot between you and the collective. So when your attention span is fragmented, people you lead will also become fragmented. Have a great day. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and of course, follow. Take care. See you soon.